The bloodthirsty love triangle of Belinda, Jessie, and the vampires. It started like any other summer evening in the small town of Millfield. The sun had dipped below the horizon, leaving in its wake a sense of calm and quiet. The streets were mostly empty, save for the occasional car that would pass through. But there was something different in the air that night. Jessie had just finished his shift at the local gas station and was walking home, lost in his thoughts. His mind was wandering, as it often did, to Belinda. She was the only person in town who ever really talked to him, and he had been smitten with her almost from the moment he met her. But lately, something had changed in her. She had become distant, almost cold at times. Jessie had tried to ask her what was wrong, but she always brushed him off with some excuse or another. As he walked, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. He kept glancing over his shoulder, but there was nobody there. The darkness seemed to be closing in around him, suffocating him with its inky blackness. Finally, he turned a corner and saw a figure standing in the distance. It was Belinda. "Hey, what are you doing out here?" he asked as he approached her. "I was just taking a walk," she replied, her voice flat. Jessie couldn't help but notice that there was something different about her. Her eyes were dark, almost feral, and her demeanor was more animalistic than usual. "Are you okay?" he asked, concerned. "I'm fine," she replied curtly. "Just got some stuff on my mind." They walked in silence for a while, the only sound their footsteps on the pavement. Jessie tried to start up a conversation, but Belinda was as unresponsive as ever. Suddenly, she stopped in her tracks and turned to face him. "Jessie, there's something I need to tell you," she said, her voice shaking. "What is it? Promise me you won't freak out." "I promise," he said, his heart racing. "I'm a vampire." Jessie stared at her for a moment, trying to process what she had just said. But then he noticed her fangs, glinting in the moonlight. He stumbled backwards, fear gripping his heart. What do you mean?" "I'm a creature of the night, Jessie. I feed on the blood of the living." Jessie felt everything inside of him turn cold. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I want you to join me. To be like me." Jessie shook his head, his mind reeling. No, I can't. Please, Jessie. Think about it. We could be together forever. We could do anything we want. Live forever. But Jessie couldn't see a future in which he became a monster, even if it meant being with Belinda. He turned and ran, his heart pounding in his chest. He never saw her again. Days turned into weeks and weeks turned into months. Jessie tried to go about his life as if nothing had happened, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching him. He would feel a cold breath on the back of his neck, or hear a soft whisper in his ear when there was nobody around. He started to become paranoid, convinced that he was being hunted by Belinda and her kind. But it wasn't until one night, as he was lying in bed, that he realized how right he had been. He woke up to the sound of scratching at his window. At first, he thought it was just a branch leaning against the glass, but then he saw something moving outside. He sat up and looked closer, his heart beating faster with every passing second. At first, all he could see was a pair of glowing eyes, like hot coals in the darkness. But then the figure stepped into the moonlight, and Jessie saw that it was Belinda. She had changed, though. Her eyes were no longer vacant, but filled with a cold, hungry fire. Her skin was paler than ever, like alabaster, and her lips were drawn back, revealing her teeth. "I've come for you, Jessie," she hissed, her voice barely more than a whisper. Jessie scrambled backwards, trying to get away. But Belinda was faster than he was, and in one swift motion, she had ripped the screen from his window and climbed inside. He could hear her breathing, ragged and guttural, as she advanced on him. He tried to fight her off, but she was too strong. She sank her fangs into his neck, and Jessie felt a searing pain like he'd never experienced before. He could feel his life slipping away, feel his body shutting down. He tried to call out for help, but the words wouldn't come. And then there was nothing. Jessie's body was found the next morning, drained of all blood. The police tried to come up with an explanation, but they couldn't. Nobody could explain why all of the windows and doors of his house had been locked from the inside, or why there were strange puncture wounds on his neck. But Jessie knew. He knew that Belinda had come for him, and he had been powerless to stop her. He knew that she had taken him from this world, and that he was now forced to wander the shadows as a creature of the night. And worst of all, he knew that he would never be able to forget the sound of her voice, the sound of his own screams echoing in his ears. For as long as he existed, he would be cursed to remember that night. And he could only hope that no one else would ever be forced to face the same fate.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and tell us what you think in the comments. And of course, don't forget to subscribe.